Unlocking collaborative leadership. Have you ever noticed how leadership is often mistaken for who has the loudest voice in the room? I have seen that real leadership has nothing to do with titles, authority, or individual charisma. It's about how well people can bring out the best thinking in others. Could it be that the most effective teams don't rely on a single leader, but instead operate as a network of intelligence, where leadership shifts depending on what's needed in the moment? In my experience, the best decisions are made not by the most dominant personality, but by teams that know how to listen, challenge, refine, and build on each other's ideas. Isn't it obvious that no single perspective is ever enough? Have you noticed how the most valuable insights often come from those who aren't always the first to speak? What if the key to true leadership wasn't about who gets heard the most, but about who creates the conditions for everyone's intelligence to come forward? I have seen that when leadership is distributed, when teams allow expertise, insight, and problem-solving abilities to emerge naturally, decisions become faster, stronger, and more adaptable. Could it be that leadership isn't a fixed role, but a fluid function that shifts based on the needs of the moment? What if, instead of focusing on who's in charge, we focused on how to make the collective thinking process more effective? And then there's the issue of ego versus collaboration. Have you noticed how some leaders focus more on being right than on finding the best solution? I have seen teams where brilliant ideas are ignored simply because they didn't come from the right person. Could it be that the biggest barrier to progress isn't a lack of skill or intelligence, but a fear of losing control? What if true leadership wasn't about having all the answers, but about asking better questions and creating space for others to contribute? I've also noticed how people often equate leadership with making quick, confident decisions. But isn't it obvious that the best leaders are the ones who know when to hold space for deeper discussion? What if leadership wasn't about pushing people toward a solution, but about allowing solutions to emerge through the collective intelligence of the group? Could it be that the best leaders aren't the ones who drive the conversation, but the ones who know how to guide it without overpowering it? And what about the natural leaders who go unnoticed? I have seen that in every team, there are people who quietly build connections, ask the right questions, and help others clarify their thinking. Could it be that the future of leadership isn't about hierarchies and authority, but about recognizing and leveraging the natural leadership qualities in everyone? What if leadership wasn't about who takes charge, but about who contributes in a way that moves the whole team forward? So the real question is, what if leadership isn't something you step into, but something you create around you? Could it be that the best teams don't need a single leader, but rather a culture where everyone takes responsibility for the quality of thinking in the room? And if that's the case, isn't it worth asking, what could we accomplish if we stopped waiting for someone to lead us and instead learned how to lead each other? Unlocking collaborative leadership, bringing together cognitive diversity for smarter decision-making. True collaborative leadership is about balancing conceptual thinking, structured cognition, comprehension, characterization, and conclusion, the 5 C's of critical thinking, with the unique strengths of all 16 Myers-Briggs types. When these elements are aligned, leadership becomes less about authority and more about creating an environment where intelligence naturally emerges from the group. In any discussion, there will always be visionaries who drive new ideas, planners who structure them, strategists who analyze feasibility, and empathetic thinkers who ensure that decisions align with human values. Let's take a look at how these roles naturally emerge when the 5 C's and personality diversity work together, creating collaborative leadership that adapts to any challenge. Conceptualizing, setting the vision. Every great leader starts with a concept, a big idea or a challenge to solve. But how this idea takes shape depends on who is in the room. ENTPs and ENFPs naturally generate bold, unconventional possibilities, while INTJs and INFJs push for deeper, long-term strategy. The conceptual thinkers take the first step, asking, what if, and challenging assumptions that others take for granted. But big ideas without structure can quickly become overwhelming. This is where sensing types like ESTJs, ISTJs, and ISFJs step in to ask, how do we make this practical? They ensure that concepts are grounded in reality, providing tangible data and concrete considerations that prevent leadership from making overly abstract decisions. Cognizing, seeing the bigger picture. Once an idea is formed, the next step in leadership is recognizing the full scope of the problem. INTPs and ISTPs excel in this phase, analyzing all the facts, variables, and unseen factors that might affect the decision. They look at the challenge from every angle, ensuring that leadership doesn't overlook crucial details. But cognition isn't just about analysis, it's also about human insight. ENFJs and ESFPs bring emotional intelligence into the discussion, recognizing how decisions will impact morale, relationships, and team dynamics. Leadership can't just be data-driven. It must balance logic with emotional awareness, ensuring that decisions work not just on paper, but in the real world. Comprehending, aligning ideas with values and strategy. Some decisions make perfect sense logically, but don't align with the team's values. ENFJs, ISFPs, and INFPs focus ensuring that solutions don't just function efficiently, but also feel right. They challenge leadership to ask, does this decision align with our mission and values? And help refine solutions so they are both strategically sound and ethically responsible. At the same time, ENTJs and ESTs push for strategic alignment, asking, does this actually position us for long-term success? They look at market trends, competitor strategies, and operational realities to make sure decisions are not just ethically sound, but also sustainable and competitive. Characterizing, defining the leadership approach. Once a team has a clear understanding of the problem, the next step is characterization, giving the solution a clear structure and action plan. ISTJs, ISFJs, and ESTJs step up here, outlining processes, guidelines, and execution plans to turn ideas into reality. They set timelines, allocate resources, and define responsibilities, ensuring that the leadership team can follow through on its vision. But what if leadership only focused on process and structure? That could create a rigid system that ignores real-time adaptability. This is where perceivers like ENFPs, INTPs, and ESTPs bring in flexibility. They challenge the group to ask, what if things don't go as planned? And build adaptability into the leadership model. Concluding, driving action and accountability. The final step in leadership is turning all this structured thinking into decisive action. Judging types like ENTJs, ESTJs, and ISTJs push for execution. They ask, who is responsible for what? What deadlines do we need? How do we measure success? They drive accountability, ensuring that ideas aren't just talked about, they are implemented. At the same time, feeling types like ENFJs, ESFJs, and INFPs focus on how leadership communicates decisions. They ensure that rollouts are not just about policy, but about storytelling and motivation. Leadership isn't just about making choices, it's about inspiring people to follow through.